All right. Well, ladies, thank you for being here. And like I said in my email, we're going to start exactly at 11:15, not because we're running over, but we don't want to run over, and we want to go till 12:15. So if you want to talk to each other, find out what's going on with each other, we'll do that at the end. I have been ending the meeting for everyone at the end of the session, and I won't do that anymore. So we can continue. Before I get started, first of all, Samson is the topic of conversation this morning. And as you all know, he's in Judges 13, 14, and 15. Now, when I looked at this, I thought, well, I'm gonna talk about Samson in my own words. And so I made some notes and so on, and I looked at them, and then I read the Bible, and I thought, no way. The Bible has an excellent portrayal of Samson. So that's what I'm going to use. I'm just going straight to the Bible and use the verses there, but I'm going to do it with a slide presentation with pictures. And I know it's elementary, it's Sunday school, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay.
Looking
right,
forward
now,
to it.
I'm going to bring up the photos. You're not going to be able to see me. I'm not going to be able to see you. So if you have any questions, please write them down, because I won't know that you have any. Besides,
Do we have to go to the Bible? Do you want us to get to a certain?
You can or
Okay.
cannot. You can follow along with me. I did take some liberties with some of the stuff, but all right. Let me do this. Give me a minute here. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
See you too.
Yeah, I want to get me out of there. I want to get all of us out of there.
You're just little.
Yeah.
Just a little Maggie.
Let me go back.
Let me go remove it.
I'm gonna, can you? I'm gonna go back.
I
There
think
should be a way to remove the participants.
I think you can just switch to,
participants.
yeah, I think you can just switch to switch camera,
Okay, let's try.
switch to gallery,
I am
participants.
in gallery, then what? There we go.
No, you're
Okay.
still on there, but that's okay.
You can take me off. I don't
Yeah,
see
we
myself.
can,
Okay.
we can take you off. We can just delete you.
Okay.
There.
Well, there isn't anybody on this call that couldn't give this lesson, because we all know about Samson. We learned about it in Sunday school. He is he is the most recognizable of the judges who ruled over Israel before the time of the kings. The name Samson, as I found out, means little son. He was born sometime between 1045 BC and 1000 BC. He was given this supernatural strength by the Lord. He was a Nazirite. We're not going to discuss what a Nazirite is right now, but we will do that later on. He was the 13th judge of Israel, and he was set apart for God's service. Now, he wasn't the last judge, but he was the 13th. Okay. Oops. Well, the Israelites did it again. They stopped obeying God. They started worshiping idols. They started fighting. And of course, the Philistines just wait for that so they can pounce on them. And they did. Philistines' land joined with this, but the Philistines are strong. They're also cruel. And so for 40 years, they ruled over the tribes of Israel. Let me ask whoever has the puppy to put yourself on mute. Thank you. Well, the Israelites started worshiping idols, and they worshiped the idol of their neighbors. This idol that they worshiped is called Dagon. Hideous looking. If you look at him, he's got the face and the hands of a man and the body of a fish. Now, when I was doing research, I found out that, believe it or not, in this day and age, there are still some people who worship this idol.
Oh, my.
This is Samson's father. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but I'm going to, Manoah. We don't know what Samson's mother's name was. The Bible doesn't say, but Manoah was from the tribe of Dan. And he and his wife were childless, unable to give birth. Oops. Somehow I lost the next one. Okay. Zorah is where this story takes place. That's where Samson was born. This is a map. If you look in the center of this map, from the top, go straight down, and right above Bethlehem, you see Zorah. Okay, that's where Samson was born. That's where his parents lived. And if you look at that, Marlene's map, I tried to make it in yellow. I don't know if you can see it, but that's basically where Zorah is, between Bethlehem and Jerusalem. So, all right, what you see here is Manoah's wife planting a little field just outside their home. An angel of the Lord is standing before her. She looks shocked, which obviously is understandable, but the angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, "You are barren and childless. You are going to become pregnant and give birth to a son." Well, to be barren in those days was a stain on the character of both men and women that it affected. So, and the angel said to her, "Now see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you don't eat anything unclean. You will become pregnant. You will have a son whose head is never to be touched by a razor, because this boy is to be a Nazirite, dedicated to God from the womb. He will take the lead in delivering Israel from the hands of the Philistines." Well, the woman went to her husband and said, "A man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God. Very awesome. I didn't ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name, but he said to me, 'You will become pregnant and have a son.' Now then," he said, "drink no wine or other fermented drink, and do not eat anything unclean, because the boy will be a Nazarite of God from the womb until the day of his death." So then Manoah prayed to the Lord, and he said, "Pardon your servant, Lord. I beg you to let the man of God you sent to us come again to teach us how to bring this boy up who is about to be born." God heard Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman while she was out in the field. Her husband Manoah was not with her, but she hurried on to tell her husband, "He's here, the man who appeared to me the other day." Oh gosh, I got these all mixed up here. Sorry about that. Manoah got up, followed his wife, and when he came to the man, he said, "Are you the man who talked to my wife?" "I am," he said. So Manoah asked him, "When your words are fulfilled, what is to be the rule that governs the boy's life and work?" The angel of the Lord answered, your wife must do all that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink any wine or any other fermented drink, nor anything unclean, and she must do everything that I have commanded her. Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, we would like you to stay with us until we prepared a young goat for you. The angel of the Lord replied, even though you detain me, I will not eat any of your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering and offer it to the Lord. Manoah didn't realize that it was the angel of the Lord that was talking. Then Manoah inquired of the angel, what is your name, so that we might honor you when your word comes true? And the angel said, why do you ask my name? It's beyond understanding. Then Manoah took a young goat, together with a grain offering, and sacrificed it on a rock to the Lord. And the Lord did an amazing thing while Manoah and his wife watched. A flame blazed up from the altar toward heaven. The angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. Seeing this, Manoah and his wife fell on their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord did not show himself again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized that it truly was the angel of the Lord. Manoah said, we are doomed to die, he said to his wife. We've seen God. But his wife answered, if the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and grain offering from our hands, nor shown us all these things, or now told us this. Well, the woman gave birth to a boy and named him Samson. He grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir in him while he was in Mahane Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Samson went down, once he was older, Samson went down to Timnah, and there he saw a young Philistine woman. When he returned to his home, he said to his father and mother, I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now go get her for me as my wife. Sorry about this, guys. So I'm bringing this up to show you where Timnah is. You know where Zorah is. I don't know if you can see. Can you see my arrow?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's Timnah right there. So he went from Zorah to Timnah. Timnah is in the Philistines' territory. That's where he went. And he saw this woman. And his mother and father said, Samson, isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife? But Samson said to his father, get her for me. She's the right one for me. His parents didn't know at the time that this was coming from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines, for at that time they were ruling over Israel, as we mentioned before. Okay, in this slide, you see Samson entering the gate of the village of Timnah. And on the right, you see these two women. One is carrying a basket of oranges. This is the one that Samson liked. When he was back home with his parents in Zorah, he was inspired by the Lord to ask his parents to get her as his wife. The Bible informs us that this was God's say of confronting the Philistines using Samson. Samson went down to Timnah together with his father and mother. And as they approached the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion came roaring toward him. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as he might have torn a young goat. But he told neither his father nor his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, the one that he liked. Sometime later, he went back to marry her. And as he was going back to Timnah, he saw this lion's carcass. In it, he saw a swarm of bees, and they were storing their honey in this carcass. He scooped out some of the honey with his hands and ate as he went along. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they too ate it. But he didn't tell them that he had taken the honey from the lion's carcass. Now his father went down to see the woman, and there Samson held a feast, as was customary for young men. When the people saw him, they chose 30 men to be his companions. Let me tell you a riddle, Samson said to them. If you can give me the answer within the 7 days of this feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. If you can't tell me the answer, then you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. Tell us the riddle, they said. Let's hear it. And Samson said, out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. For 3 days, they could not give him an answer. So on the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, coax your husband into explaining the riddle for us, or if you don't, we will burn you and your father's household to death. Did you invite us here to steal our property? Their threats were terrible. We will burn you. We will burn you and your father, is what they told him. So then Samson's wife threw himself on him, sobbing, you hate me. You haven't told me the answer. Samson said, I haven't even explained it to my father or mother. So why should I explain it to you? She cried the whole 7 days of the feast. On the 7th day, he finally told her because she continued to press him. So she in turn explained the riddle to her people. Before sunset on the 7th day, the men of the town said to him, what is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? Samson said, if you had not plowed my heifer, you would not have solved this riddle. Then the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. He went down to Ashkelon, struck down 30 of their men, stripped them of everything, and gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. Burning with anger, he returned to his father's home. And during that time, Samson's wife's father, because he had gone away, gave his wife to one of his companions or one of the friends who had attended the feast, gave her away. Later on, Samson decides to go back, and it's at the time of the wheat harvest. He took a young goat with him and went to visit his wife. He said, I'm going to my wife's room, but her father would not let him go in. I was so sure you hated her, the father said, that I gave her to your companion. Isn't her younger sister here more attractive? Take her instead. Samson said to them, This time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them. So he went out. He caught 300 foxes, tied them tail to tail in pairs. He then fastened a torch to the tails, lit the torches, and let the foxes loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. He burned up the shocks, standing grain, together with the vineyards and olive groves. When the Philistines asked, "Who did this?" they were told, "Samson, the Timnite's son-in-law, because his wife was given to his companion." So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. Samson said to them, "Since you've acted like this, I swear that I won't stop until I get my revenge on you." He attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in a cave in the rock of Etam. The Philistines went up and camped in Judah, spreading out near Lehi. The people of Judah asked, "Why have you come to fight us?" "We have come to take Samson prisoner," they said, "to do to him what he did to us." Then 3,000 men from Judah went down to the cave in the rock of Etam and said to Samson, "Don't you realize that the Philistines are ruler over us? What have you done to us?" Samson answered, "I merely did to them what they did to me." Then they said to him, "We've come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines." Samson said, "Swear to me, please, that you won't kill me yourselves." And they said, "Agreed. We will only tie you up and hand you over to them. We will not kill you." So they bound him with 2 new ropes and led him up from the rock. As he approached Lehi, the Philistines came toward him shouting. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. The ropes on his arms became like charred flax, and the bindings dropped from his hands. Finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey, he grabbed it, and he struck down 1,000 men with one jawbone. Then Samson said, "With a donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them. With a donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men." When he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone, and the place was called Ramat Lehi. Because he was very thirsty, he cried out to the Lord, "You have given your servants this great victory. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" Then God opened up the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. When Samson drank, his strength returned and he revived. So the spring was called, I'm going to say this wrong, I know, and Hakor, and is still there today in Lehi. Samson led Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. One day, Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute. He went in, spent the night with her. The people of Gaza were told, "Samson is here." So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. They made no move during the night, saying, "At dawn, we'll kill him." But Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. Then he got up, took hold of the doors of the city gate, together with the 2 posts, and tore them loose, bar and all. He lifted them to his shoulders and carried him to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. Sometime later, he fell in love with a woman of the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, "See if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him, so we may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver for doing this." So Delilah said to Samson, "Tell me the secret of your strength and how you can be tied up and subdued." Samson answered her, "If anyone ties me with fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man." Then the rulers of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried, and she tied Samson with them. With men hidden in the room, she called to him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he snapped the bowstrings as easily as a piece of string snaps when it comes close to a flame. So the secret of his strength was not discovered. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have made a fool of me. You lied to me. Now come now, tell me how you can be tied." He said, "If anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man." So Delilah took new ropes and tied him with them. Then with men hidden in the room, she called to them, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he snapped the ropes off his arms as if they were threads. Delilah then said to Samson, "All this time you have been making a fool of me and lying to me. Tell me, how can you be tied?" He replied, "If you weave the 7 braids of my head into the fabric of the loom and tighten it with a pin, I'll become as weak as any other man." So while he was sleeping, Delilah took the 7 braids of his head, wove them into the fabric, and tightened it with a pin. Again, she called him, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He woke up from his sleep. He pulled up the pin in the loom with the fabric. Then she said to me, "How can you say I love you when you won't confide in me? This is the 3rd time you made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength." With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was sick to death with it. So he told her everything. "No razor has ever been used on my head," he said, "because I have been a Nazirite, dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man." When Delilah saw that he told her everything, she sent a word to the rulers of the Philistines. "Come back once more," she said. "He's told me everything." So the rulers of the Philistines returned with the silver in their hands. After putting him to sleep on her lap, she called for someone to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him. And his strength left him. He woke from his sleep and thought, "I'll go out as before and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had left him. Then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him down to Gaza. Binding him with bronze shackles, they set him to grinding grain in the prison. But the hair on his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. Now the rulers of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to celebrate, saying, "Our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands." When the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, "Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who laid waste our land and multiplied our slain." While they were in high spirits, they shouted, "Bring out Samson to entertain us." So they called Samson out of the prison, and he performed for them. When they stood him among the pillars, Samson said to the servant who held his hand, "Put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple, so that I might lean against them." Now the temple was crowded with men and women. All the rulers of the Philistines were there. And on the roof were about 3,000 men and women watching Samson perform. Then Samson said to the Lord, "Sovereign God, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more, and let me with one blow get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." Then Samson reached the 2 central pillars on which the temple stood, bracing himself against him, his right hand on the one and his left hand on the other. Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." And then he pushed with all his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all of the people in it. Thus he killed many more when he died than when he lived. His brothers and his father's whole family went down to get him. They brought him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of Manoah, his father. He had led Israel for 20 years.
Wow,
And
great.
that's the story of Samson directly from the Bible. Any questions, comments?
You're quite an actress.
Thank you.
I like your voice. You did good voices. It was
Thank you.
great.
Marlene?
I have a comment. This is from chapter 16. It's not necessarily anything to do as far as being theological, but twice in that chapter, excuse me, I'm sorry, it's from chapter 13. Twice in that chapter, Hannah is told, Samson's mother is told, do not drink wine or strong drink. And doctors still now warn pregnant women not to drink any or to drink very little. And I find it very interesting that it was important enough at that time that it was said twice.
Right. We'll talk a little bit more about them in terms of a Nazarite, because that's one of the vows of a Nazarite.
But there's also health reasons, obviously.
There's also what?
Health
Yes.
reasons.
Yeah, true. All right. As we mentioned before, Samson is known as the strongest man to have walked the earth. And he reigned for 20 years. One of his main highlights of his life is his involvement with Philistine women. So, he was given this wonderful opportunity and from God, and yet he betrayed in essence, he betrayed him because he did everything he wasn't supposed to do. It doesn't say that he drank, but we saw him with his companions for his wedding feast, and he had a drink in his hand. Whether he was drinking or not, we don't know, but I would guess that he probably did. He ate out of a carcass, which he wasn't supposed to do. And I mean, just on and on, he did badly in the eyes of the Lord. Samson's is the most famous of the judges to have been appointed to Israel. Also, the most unusual, and many times broke his vow or his mother's vow, a way of getting things done. He's regarded as a hero of the Bible. He's regarded as a hero of Israel. But his moral inconsistencies, his violent behavior, his inability to withstand temptation makes him a very complex figure. He single-handedly did defeat the Philistines as opposed to using an army. His weakness, his biggest weakness, was his love for Philistine women. Why Philistine? Why not his own? The Bible doesn't tell us. But I suppose because it's like hanging a carrot in front of somebody, and don't eat, and yet you want to go after it.
Donna,
Yes.
Donna, excuse me, Barbara's had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Barbara. You're on mute. Barbara, there you go.
No, what I wanted to say was earlier you made the comment, that he got involved with Philistine women, and I agree it wasn't right, yada yada. But I think we have to look at the fact that those Philistine women were against him. I mean, they egged him on. They wanted to know his secrets, and for a man who's supposed to be intelligent and a judge, how do you not say, quit? Because every time, yeah.
Barbara, you're fading out. We're not able to hear all of
Okay.
the words.
Is this any better?
So
Yes.
far,
Is this any better?
yeah, so far.
I'm on Jim's computer and I couldn't get into you this morning, so I had issues. Okay, but it's not like the Delilah betrayed. I think he would learn the first time she betrayed him by calling in the Philistines to do, to unbind the thongs or whatever it was. Okay, that should have given him a clue that she is being unfaithful to him, and yet it happened umpteen times. So I think the Philistine women are nothing to brag about, and I believe the reason God involved him with the Philistines, that stop me if I think one of the reasons he was involved with the Philistine women is because if he had taken a Jewish wife, okay, we wouldn't have had the death of so many people. Here he's wiping out the Philistines, and in order to carry out that plan, it was necessary for Samson to be involved with these Philistine women. Being involved with an Israelite woman would never have brought this plan to action.
Right. Well, you make an interesting point. This was God's plan. I mean, it was God's plan that he had this love for Philistine women. It was God's plan that he get involved with these Philistine women because that's what they needed to defeat the Philistines. Samson's love for Delilah was really his undoing. He allowed the Philistine women to influence him over and over again. Now, the Bible tells us that Samson was a Nazarite. He came from the tribe of Dan. He was born in Zorah. His father was Manoah. His mother was not named. Now let's talk about a little bit about what is a Nazarite. And it tells us can't drink, don't eat unclean food. Help me out. Well, okay.
Long hair.
Long hair, thank you. Yes. Don't cut your hair.
Don't eat anything clean.
Yes, exactly. Now,
We go back to the donkey, the lion's carcass.
right, exactly. And I lost my train of thought. Sorry. Samson was, the Lord gave Samson the vow of being a Nazarite. Samson really didn't have any choice. He became a Nazarite at the time that he was in his mother's womb. That's not always the case. That was a divine intervention by God. But people can choose to be Nazarites at that time and today. And it's as Marlene said earlier about pregnant women who are asked not to drink when they're pregnant. Well, it's kind of a form of being a Nazarite. Let me ask you this question. Would you and I be able to be a Nazarite today?
Probably not.
Yes, we could. Yes, we could. We decide that's what we want to do. There's two ways. One way is from God designating us as a Nazarite. The other one is by choice. So they had a choice at those times. They have a choice now. When would, if we were to take on being a Nazarite, when would be a good time, do you think, to do that? It's like giving things up.
Lent,
Thank you. Who said that?
Maggie.
Yes, Lent. Yes. Now, how long do you have to be a Nazarite? Do you have to be a Nazarite for the whole length of your life? And the answer is no.
No.
You decide how long you're going to be a Nazarite. It can be during the Lent. It can be for years. There are other people named in the Bible who were Nazarites. Do you know who they are? Samuel was one. Samuel was a Nazarite. John the Baptist was a Nazarite. And that's stated in the Bible. We know that. Okay. Samson was divinely appointed. His mother made them a vow rather than Samson himself. With Samuel, his mother also offered a vow. But with John the Baptist, John was divinely appointed as a Nazarite. Now, the other day, Deborah and I had a discussion between a Nazarite and a Nazarene. Let me ask the question, are they the same? I see a couple people are shaking their heads. No, they're not. A Nazarene is someone who was born in Nazareth. A Nazarite is someone who takes these vows and follows them to the letter. No fermented drink, no grapes, nothing that touches anything fermented, no eating out of a carcass or unclean food. And they had several foods that they considered to be unclean. All right.
Didn't realize, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you could be a Nazarite,
Today.
that you could select that. I mean, I didn't know that it referred to that. I mean,
Yes.
because I for Lent and stuff, but I didn't know, I didn't recognize it as that. I just was doing it to honor the Lord during the period of Lent, or I did do that.
Okay, good. Yes, Vivian, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Where is she?
Where is she? Let's see, I can help you. Give me a second. Vivian. Huh. Give me a second. I have to find Vivian. I can unmute her. No, I can't. I don't know. You're on mute. This is showing you on mute. There.
Donna, I have something I wanted to say if no
Yeah.
one, when you were reading it, I mean, what came to me was all of the parallels that are in these scriptures of Daniel's to other references in the Bible.
Yep.
Did you do that?
Well, we're going to talk about some parallels, and if I don't mention what you're thinking of, then please bring it up, okay? Let's see, where is Vivian? Vivian, we're still on mute. Jane, you have your hand up.
I'm a little bit confused. Were you saying earlier, Donna, that I thought at first when you were just talking about the comparison of being a Nazirite to Lent, that was a comparison. Is that correct? Or are you saying that when someone gives something up for Lent, that's the same as being a Nazirite? No.
Well, no, no.
That's just a
because it
comparison
depends
of
on
giving something up
yeah.
to the Lord. Okay.
It depends on what you're giving up. Now, if you're following the guidelines of what a Nazirite is, then you become a Nazirite for that period of time. But if you're giving up Coke, as an example, for Lent, that's not.
So where do you find those descriptions of how to be a Nazirite, if that's what you're trying to do?
Well, it's in the Bible, and it's also on the internet. All you have to do is who was saying Numbers?
My Bible says Numbers chapter 6 verses 1 through 21. And I did look, and it lists all the things.
Thank you. Say that again, Vicki.
Numbers chapter 6 verses 1 through 21.
Okay. Everybody get that?
Donna, I just got a text from Vivian. It says, sorry, on my cell phone, can't unmute. Are there any female Nazirites in the Bible? She asked.
Not that I'm aware of. I'm going to ask Marlene or Barbara. I'm not, it never mentioned it. And in my research on the internet, it never said.
Okay.
So now if you think about it though, the angel of the Lord came to Samson's mother prior to giving birth and told her that she was not to drink anything that's fermented, told her not to eat anything unclean. It didn't call her a Nazirite, but that she had the characteristics of being a Nazirite.
Number 6:2 says, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when either a man or woman concentrates an offering to take the vow of Nazareth to separate himself to the Lord, he shall separate himself from wine and similar drink, and it goes on. So it says man or woman. So I guess women can be.
Yeah. I don't see why not. Yeah. I don't see why not. Any other questions, comments about a Nazirite? Okay.
I think it would be good for everyone to read the Numbers from chapter 6 on, because not only were they all to give up things, but they had to do various offerings, and a burnt offering, a guilt offering. And so if you read this chapter 6 that Vicki was talking about, it gives you a good overview, because at the time when Samson was, well, and this is where the Lord is talking to Moses. This is even way before Samson was even born. The vows of the Nazirite in becoming a Nazirite was a major, major, major thing. And it wasn't something you did for only a week or 2 or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. It was for a much longer time.
when you are appointed. Is that what you're saying, Marlene?
He just says in in number 6.
You know, I think it would be a good idea for us to read that because there's some
Yes,
good information in
because
there.
Um,
You want to
it
start
just-
reading it?
excuse me, you asked about the length of time. Verse 2 says, speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when a man or woman makes a special vow, the vow of a Nazarite, to dedicate himself to the Lord, it goes on and it doesn't really give a time period.
Okay. I think it'd be a good idea for us to read this chapter. And Marlene, I'm going to ask you to start with verse 1 and read up through 9, up to 9.
Up to 9. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when a man or woman makes a special vow, the vow of a Nazarite, to dedicate himself to the Lord, he shall abstain from wine and strong drink. He shall drink no vinegar, whether made from wine or strong drink, nor shall he drink any grape juice, nor eat fresh or dried grapes. All the days of his separation, he shall not eat anything that is produced by the grapevine from the seeds, even to the skin. All the days of his vows of separation, no razor shall pass over his head. He shall be holy until the days are fulfilled for which he separated himself to the Lord. He shall let the locks of hair on his head grow long. All the days of his separation to the Lord, he shall not go near to a dead person. He shall not make himself unclean for his father or for his mother, for his brother or for his sister when they die, because his separation to God is on his head. All the days of his separation, he is holy to the Lord.
That's pretty.
I hadn't realized, or I'd forgotten that they couldn't go and mourn the dead.
Oh, and I didn't mention that. So I'm glad we read this because yes, that's true.
You can
That's-
tell it's the Old Testament because you couldn't take communion.
That's right.
Mhm.
The blood of, well,
And Jesus turned the water into wine. So things change.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, let's keep reading. This is interesting. Let's go from 9. Who would like to read from 9 through 14? Anybody? If not, I'll pick somebody. Laura, are you? Laura?
I'll be happy to.
Good.
If someone dies suddenly in his presence, thus defiling the hair he has dedicated, he must shave his head on the day of his cleansing, the 7th day. Then on the 8th day, he must bring 2 doves or 2 young pigeons to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting. The priest is to offer one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering to make atonement for him because he sinned by being in the presence of a dead body. That same day, he is to consecrate his head. He must dedicate himself to the Lord for the period of his separation and must bring a year-old male lamb as a guilt offering. The previous days do not count because he became defiled during his separation. Now this is the law for the Nazarite when the period of his separation is over. He is to be brought to the entrance to the tent of meeting. There he is to present his offerings to the Lord, a year-old male lamb without defect for a burnt offering, a year-old ewe lamb without defect for a sin offering, a ram without defect for a fellowship offering.
Good. Thank you.
Mhm.
Now, let's finish this chapter. Let's finish it. Any volunteers? We're getting close to the time here. Anybody? Jane?
Oh.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Who said? Okay,
Do
Go
you want
ahead.
me to finish, or whoever volunteered want to read? I don't know who said that.
I did.
oh,
Go ahead.
You want to read,
Marilyn,
Marilyn? Go ahead.
go ahead, Marilyn.
A basket of unleavened bread, cakes of fine flour mixed with oil, unleavened wafers anointed with oil, and their grain offering with their drink offerings. Then the priest shall bring them before the Lord and offer his sin offering and his burnt offering. He shall offer the ram as a sacrifice of a peace offering with the Lord. To the Lord with the basket of unleavened bread, and the priest shall also offer its grain offering and its drink offering. Then the Nazarite shall shave his consecrated head at the door of the tabernacle of meeting, and shall take the hair from his consecrated head and put it on the fire, which is under the sacrifice of the peace offering. And the priest shall take the boiled shoulder of the ram, one unleavened cake from the basket, and one unleavened wafer, and put them upon the hands of the Nazarite after he has shaved his consecrated hair. And the priest shall wave them as a wave offering before the Lord. They are holy for the priest, together with the rest of the wave offering and the thigh of the heave offering. After that, the Nazarite may drink wine. This is the law of the Nazarite who vows to the Lord the offering for his separation. And besides that, whoever else his hand is able to provide, according to the vow which he takes. So he must
Okay.
do according to the law of his separation.
Okay, we'll stop right there. Thank you, Marilyn. We're getting close to the end here, so let's just stop right here for today, and then we'll pick up again next week. You know, it just dawned on me, we didn't pray before we started, did we? Anybody like to offer a prayer? Yes, Marlene, thank you.
I will go with verses 23 through the end of chapter 6 of Numbers. Actually 22. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, thus you shall bless the sons of Israel, and you shall say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift his countenance on you and give you peace. And so they shall invoke my name on the sons of Israel, and I then will bless them. May the Lord be with you throughout the coming week.
And,
You too.
and also,
Gonna take a picture, Donna?
Yeah,
Oh,
don't
yes.
hang. Yeah, turn us off, and then everybody stay on, please.
Well, Kim is not, well, okay.
We'll do what we can. We'll do what we can.
We'll do what we can, okay. Let me just
Laura's
say
got
this.
something.
Let me just say this. Thank you so much for participating. This is, for me, this is not easy. So when you participate, it helps me tremendously. And I thank you for that. Oh, there she is. Okay, I'm gonna shut the recording, and then we're gonna take a picture.
Wait.
Laura, quick, Laura.
Yes,
Hang on.
Laura.
Hang on just a second. It says here in my study Bible that if Gideon shows how God can use a person with limited potential in chapter 7 of Judges, then Samson illustrates just the opposite, a person with enormous potential who squanders it. And then for a life question, in what areas of your life are you living up to your potential? And in what areas are you falling short? A little food for thought.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
All right, here
Thank
we
you,
go.
Donna.